Hi, everybody. Welcome to November Culturama. And this is our first official session, which I'm so thrilled to see. And I'm also thrilled to have Jude Higgins from England, who runs an incredible program called the Bath Flash Fiction Festival, along with Ad Hoc Fiction. And it's just the one of the great highlights of the flash fiction universe. I've just mixed my metaphor, but I'm happy to have done so. Jude is I attended a couple of her classes 2 years ago, back when we could travel, and I was so inspired. She was talking about dreams, and I got some good stories. But I also understood for the first time this recurring dream that I've had my whole life. It's like, oh, that's what that was. Thank you, Jude. Today she's not going to be talking about dreams, I don't think, but about it's flash fiction fireworks, I believe. And so she's an exceptional writer. You should read her work. And she's an exceptional teacher, as you'll find out in a second. All right, so take it away, Jude.
Oh, thank you very much for that introduction, John. I have to live up to that now. Um, I just wanted to say that for those who are not aware of why I might have chosen the subject flash fiction fireworks today, it was because it's November the 5th, and November the 5th in the UK is a day which is sometimes called Fireworks Night, Bonfire Night, or Guy Fawkes Night. And it's an event that's been really was triggered in the 17th century by an attempt to blow up the Houses of Parliament. Um, I'm just going to share a little bit of the history around that briefly. Hopefully, I can do this. Oh, apparently not. I can't do this. Sorry about that. Never mind about that. So, what I will tell you is that what it was a person called who is attributed to Guy Fawkes, who was actually trying to blow up the Houses of Parliament, and it was really a Protestant rebellion against the Catholics. So he was trying to blow up, and after that, there was a lot of actual anti-Catholic feeling in the country, and Guy Fawkes, who wasn't the ringleader, was seen as the ringleader and was executed. So that's a violent background to Bonfire Night, where people actually build bonfires, and they don't do it in domestic situations now. It's usually sort of huge events. There's lots on tonight, big fireworks displays, and they used to, and probably still do, make an effigy of Guy Fawkes to burn on this bonfire. So it's got, it's worth looking at the history of that, and you might like to bear it in mind during this session. So what I wanted to do as an overview during this session is look at various aspects of what might be called flash fiction fireworks. So following that metaphor, I think it's to do with the language in flash, and we're going to look at that a bit. We're going to look at fireworks as a metaphor for the structure of some flash fictions, like the way the action of probably old traditional fireworks. And we're also going to just sort of pick up some stories that might have an element of startle or surprise in them, because I think fireworks represent all sorts of things. Obviously, they are a wonderful display of colour, and they also are pretty dangerous, which is why there's big displays rather than small domestic ones for this particular day now. They can be frightening, obviously, for animals, polluting, all those sorts of the huge variety of things that are useful metaphors for writing fiction to do with fireworks. So I thought it would be interesting to look at a lot of these, and I'm going to get you writing quite a lot as well using these different sort of ideas. So does everyone feel all right about that? Lots of writing. We'll probably do about 5 stories, quite fast, and on different elements of fireworks. And it's nice to see some people I know here and lots of new people. So, what I wanted to do first was start off with memories about attending firework displays or bonfires. So, I know that a lot of people here aren't from the UK, so you won't have experienced bonfire nights in the UK on November the 5th, but I'm sure most of you have been to some sort of firework display. Is that right? I mean, can you just sort of wave if you've been to a firework display in your life of any kind whatsoever? Yeah, yeah, we sort of pretty well covers everyone. So I want you, what I just wanted to say was my experience of early Guy Fawkes night or bonfires nights was in the 1950s and 60s, when you did have domestic in your garden bonfires. It was a big thing. There was the bonfire was built out of wood for weeks that children made effigies of Guy Fawkes and stuffed him and asked for money. There was this phrase called a penny for the guy. So the money in that, I think that's an older tradition for people who are really poor. But in this case, it was just like people would give money for the best effigies and buy fireworks, and the fireworks were lit at night, and they were like when I was a girl, they were pretty humble affairs. The fireworks, so they were still pretty scary and obviously could be dangerous. So we had Catherine wheels, they're called pinwheels sometimes, I think. Catherine wheels, Roman fountains, which just whooshed out. And we had actual bangers, which were banned. We had jumping jack banners, which actually would be bangers that leapt around the ground. And what else do we have? We had rockets. Rockets, yeah. So lots of different fireworks. And there was also the element of what you're supposed to eat, like you're supposed to eat toffee, which my father made. It was about the only food stuff he could make, actually, was toffee. He made treacle toffee and baked potatoes and that sort of thing. And I'm saying all this because I want you just to write something about your experience of attending a bonfire or a firework display, and it's really lends itself to including all the senses. So with my experience, like you really got strong smells of sulfur from the fireworks, the fire, the smoke, the smell of the toffee, everything, and the sounds, obviously, sounds, and also the tastes of things. Lots of sensory elements to add the colour. So we're thinking about colour and senses, and just want you to write something down without thinking it's a story, particularly now. It's just like from a memory, but it could very well, we'll look about it going into a story afterwards. So can you just do that for 10 minutes? Thank you. I'll tell you after about 5. That's your half time signal. So if you haven't put in a sense, one of the senses yet, just maybe if you haven't got a sense of smell in there, you can put that in now. Okay, so if you could bring that to a close now and just have a look through it and see if you can give it a working title. Do that first. And then when you've done that, as I said, you might not have a story as such, you might have a description, a vignette, but have a look and see how that could be made into a story if it isn't one, or how the story could be extended or deepened. Like thinking of the firework metaphor, is there something in it that could startle or startle more? Could there be some sort of conflict that would cause fireworks in the way that we use it sometimes? And people talk about there being fireworks between each other. In my case, I might think this is fictional because I don't remember anything particularly that was an incident that could be made into a story offhand, but I could fictionalize. My fear was that these jumping jack little bangers, which were banned not quite a while ago, I think, might have jumped. One might have jumped into my Wellingtons that I was wearing. I was always a bit frightened of that, actually, because my brothers were pretty free and easy with light. They used to light them. They did. So there was that, or there could have been something competitive over the making of the Guy Fawkes effigies between the kids that would have an impact somehow. So just make a few notes on extensions of story in different ways. Oh, any advice on how to choose a title? Yeah, well, we could Lydia, just in a minute, we could ask you a little bit more about your story, and maybe the title could come out of talking about it a bit, if you felt like doing that. But you can take a phrase from a story, that sometimes works, or a name, somebody's name. Like, yeah, somebody's name and an action, that works sometimes for this sort of memoir piece. Yeah, it would be quite interesting if anyone wants to hear any titles or a little bit from the beginning of your piece to see what people did with it. Does anyone feel like sharing some of that in this possibly quite large group? Oh yeah, Sue. Yeah, just if you just read a little bit from the beginning.
You know what I'm like, Jude. I called it His Last Bonfire Night.
His last bonfire night, okay.
His last bonfire night. He winked at me and walked back to a box. He had a torch casting circles of light around it and around us. I could see the circle of light on the box, then the flare of his match, a long match he called something beginning with S, spillykin, something like that, I think. He'd lit the rocket, it shot high in the air with a whoosh, but when he came back, he handed me a metal stick. Gloves, put your gloves on, he barked. You'll burn otherwise. Do you want a bit more? Do you want a bit more?
No, that's fine. That's good. That's a good opening because there's something about the metal stick actually stood out for me there, and of course the title linking with the title linking with the person in question. We know it's him. It's his last bonfire, so something's going to happen to him.
You're
So
welcome.
that was the intrigue. Lydia, did you want to say a little bit more about your story?
Yeah, I just did sensory stuff because I thought we might turn it into a story, and I started with gloves as well, but I forgot you have to wear gloves for the sparklers. So it's just notes really. Cold air, hands stuffed into magic gloves bought for £1 at the village post office. Mine had holes in the thumbs and the wrists were unravelling. A nervous act, unpicking. Head warm and starting to itch under a thick furred hat. Fake. And scarf itching my neck, borrowed from my mum's scarf drawer, the one that sat above the odd socks. So just notes on the feeling of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good start there, isn't it? You're starting from clothes. And that's an interesting place to start, I think. So I don't know what you'd that's just a little bit of it, isn't it? So could there be a title from that bit, do you think? If it was more about your mother, it could be something to do with the bit about the mother, where the mother kept the scarves, couldn't it? It could be more about that. It depends on where you go with it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I haven't really thought yet. But I kind of like that. The sort of, I have brothers as well, and I had that similar, like the concern is, will something go wrong?
Yeah, you had that. Yes. Yeah, so that could be like one of the themes of the story, I suppose, if it was into a story, isn't it? Like the tension of whether something could go wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share anything from the title or anything? I can't see if anyone's waving or anything like that, or saying in the chat. Anybody here? Have a look in the chat now.
Can I just add, if you want to raise your hand virtually, you can do it in the reactions button.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah, good idea. Don't think there's anybody else.
I see Diane Paul raised her hand.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, Diane.
Hi, thanks. I'm a brand new writer, so after the last reading, I'm quite shy to read mine, but I'm going to go forward anyway. So,
that's great. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's I have a title, but I'll read it first and then let you know my title and see what you think. But the evening air was so fresh. Wafts of the cool breeze drifted in through the open door. And after the heat of the day, it was a welcome respite, as we all stank to high heaven anyway. But today, today I washed my hair and then my shirt in a bucket of water. It was ice cold for some odd reason, and my ears ached like they were ablaze. But it was the tracer fire that really drew me. The long, gorgeous red arcs of light, mesmerized. All sense of danger left me. Sule reached out and grabbed my collar, pulling me back.
Wow, I think that's lovely. That's really great sensory details in there. And you started, unlike Lydia, who started with touch, didn't she? You started with you did start with the sensation of something on your skin, didn't you, with the fresh air?
Mm-hmm.
And then went into those amazing visuals. So what was your title?
So the title is One Night in Sarajevo.
Wow. Well, that actually is an amazing placing it, isn't it? Because that's got, I mean, the title then has got a lot of layers to it, hasn't it? So it's not about firework display, perhaps. It's about something else. Is that right?
Yeah, it was about the irony, I guess, of watching this tracer fire that, of course, lands somewhere and could kill someone, and yet seeing it as beautiful and mesmerizing, because in the night it was so dark and there were these just beautiful red arcs of light, but of course it was sniper fire. So I found myself out on this balcony, and I had been quite experienced. It was in Bosnia during the war, but so I'd been quite experienced, but I didn't feel any sense of danger. I was somehow drawn to it. And then my colleague realized that I actually had placed myself in danger and pulled me back in the room. So
Well,
I was kind of off guard at that moment.
that is quite a story. I hope you finish writing it, because it's got
Thank you.
so many different levels in it, hasn't it? Really, really
Thanks
great.
for the feedback.
And somebody just did a lovely title for Lydia, Excitement Unraveling. That's a good title, isn't it? Because she started with the gloves. I really like that. So there's a few more things in the chat. VG. Yes. Did you want to read that out? That little bit. Perhaps not. Yeah, that's a great opening. That's a great opening.
That's
Yeah, there you are.
Hi, Jude. Hi.
Hello?
So that's that. I mean, I've written only that line. I just waited to figure out the first line. Otherwise my story, for me, it doesn't flow. So I just waited to get that first line, and that is the only thing. That is the only line I've written. So I thought I'll just put it out in the chat.
Yeah, good start though. Good start, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very different ritual. It's not like the fireworks that you described here, but it's just, we build something from the fresh harvest and we set it to fire. It's an annual ritual. Yeah.
Thank you. That's
so
brilliant.
I'll take time to really, get the description right so that everybody can understand. So it will take time, but I just wanted the first line to.
Absolutely. Well, it's really quite difficult getting something down in 10 minutes sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes you need a lot longer. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we've got some.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, a bit scary. Yes. Well, it was a very good to read it out, Diane. And we got some Amy's title. My friend John Denver is never sober on the 4th of July. Right. Very good. Excellent. Okay, so we'll move on to the next exercise to do with fireworks. And what I actually wanted us to do in the chat to start with is just make a list of all the different words that might be used for fireworks. Like I meant sort of words that conjure up the sounds particularly. So I got a few here, but if you could just call them out in the chat. I've got crack, hiss, fizz, splutter, crackle, shoot, whoosh, smack, crash. There's quite a lot of sharp words, aren't there? Crack, splutter, spark. But what are the shimmer, bang, blast, William Tell Overture, wee, right, there's loads here. Whistle, rumbling, tumbling, bang, screaming, clap, cheering. Wow, fantastic. Thank you. Cheering, growl, yeah, pop. So there's the noises the fireworks make, and there's the noises that the observers make as well that you've got in there, haven't you? The oohs and the ahs. Yeah. You've just got a lot of different sounds. And I was thinking of that, I suppose, in the rhythm of stories, the sound and the rhythm of stories, and the structure of some flash fictions. Flash is so amazing that you can experiment with all these different structures, as we know. Oh, we still got them coming here. Sirens and fire trucks, yes. Collective gasp. Great. So bear those words in mind, because you might want to use some of them in the next exercise. And I was thinking of a structure to do with Catherine wheels, I call them, which are pinwheels, some other people call them. And they're those fireworks that in my parents' garden when I was a girl. The Catherine wheels would be nailed to the shed, and then someone would light them, light the fuse, and then they'd do a slow start. These were quite not that big, I suppose. They were about as big as a what? I was just thinking of it seemed to be back in the 1960s. I was thinking of a wagon wheel, which was a sweet, actually. So they would start off slow, and then they'd do a sort of jerky. They'd do a jerky thing, and then they'd really spin, and fly. The sparks would fly out, and then of course they'd slow down until they stopped entirely, as big as the palm of a hand. Yes, well, not my hand, is a bit small, but yes. So what I want you to do now is think of a situation, maybe with two people or a group of people, maybe going to a party where it starts off quite slow. Something gets ignited, perhaps something between the people, and then there's a bit in the middle that really spins. So like really, maybe like there's something's going really fast, almost like in a continuous loop. So you might experiment with doing, for example, shorter sentences and then one long one in the middle, and then come down to the end of the firework. So you've got a situation where something's ignited, something maybe spins a bit. It could spin out of control, like Catherine's wheels sometimes span off the shed, for example. And then it wanes. So think of some of the words that you could use that would be used for fireworks that could be used in this completely different situation. So we're going to go, and don't worry about it, because as I said, it's 10 minutes of writing, which sometimes doesn't always come out. Just write down something trying to do this structure. This is an experiment. Catherine, this is your Catherine wheel story. So I'll tell you after 5 minutes.
right-hand side all the data sources that she used in this project. So she had cultural domain data, coordinator meetings, annual survey.
Yeah, that's half time. So if you haven't got to the spinning bit in the middle, you probably should be heading towards it now. Yeah, just another couple of minutes to try out a title, to maybe put in some more of the sound words, like could there be a pop or a crackle or a scream at the end, or a siren, or spitting. See what you can put in at the end that might be a startling ending. Okay, so just another minute for that bit. Okay, so thank you for doing that. Did you manage to do the structure and get the spinning going on in the middle? That work for anybody? Okay. Sort of, Sarah's saying. It's nice to see you, Sarah, by the way. Oh. Yeah. You haven't put your hand up. It means I'm going to ask you if you'd like to read a bit of it. Would you?
Who, me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's just a total mess.
Yeah.
Obviously. Okay, I'll read a wee bit. The waiting was hard. It was her first party, first proper party, no mums and dads type of party, and she'd been looking forward to it for a long time. Time seemed to splutter, to drag, starting, then stuttering. It was all too much for her. Too boring, too exciting, just too long. That's just the first bit.
That's great. So you've actually got quite a lot of interesting ways of using things. Well, you had what was spluttering? That feels like a very good
Splutter, yeah, time, splutter.
time spluttered. I like that. I like that. And then you've got, it feels like it's quite a slow build up because you've got those short sentences, haven't you?
Yeah.
Before you possibly get to the spinning bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so someone was struggling with that prompt. Yes, I know it can be a bit of a challenge, but how did anybody else get on with it reasonably? Yes, Sue? Yeah, you had to go. Do you want to read a bit?
I don't want to hog this. I called mine not a damp squib.
Right, yeah.
Right, so that was an expression we didn't bring in before because it's the opposite of all the explosive and whatever.
Yes, that's right. It's a phrase, a firework phrase, yeah.
The damp squib is when the firework doesn't quite do what it's supposed to do, and it intimates disappointment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I called it, not a damp squib. So that was my title.
Thank you.
Do you want a bit? Do you want a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Go for it.
He picked you up on his Lambretta. If you'd known, you'd have worn pedal pushers, not a frock. But hell, you hoist yourself onto the pillion and shoot off down the dark street, no street lights, country lanes, banging and bumping up and down, you losing your grip on his leather jacket. The party is in full swing in the barn, the band playing rock and roll. You're glad you wore your frock and your bobby socks. They have the lights, something here to do with a disco ball hanging from a beam. Everyone sits cradling something, everybody sits on a hay bale, nothing but beer to drink. The bar crowded, lined up 3 deep. He barges to ease through, bringing back 4 beers, 2 for each of you, you suppose, places them in a safe place, and then offers you his hand. You've been tapping your feet to a Buddy Holly number. You're on your feet now, you'll show him.
Excellent.
And then the whirling.
Yeah, the whirling actually, that's actually clever because you've got the whirling to do with the action of the dance.
Yeah,
then,
it's action. The whirling actually begins, and as it finishes, you fall on each other as the shoulders, sweaty, slick, smiling, happy. You kiss before you get back to your hay bale, a deep kiss like one you'd read about. You take his sweet as summer saliva. You hope your minty breath suits him. And then the lights go out. Well, that's a damp squib, someone calls, but you know, very different.
Very good. Well done. That's a whole little story there. Yeah, excellent.
There you go.
Thank you.
And I've got my tea. I've got my tea.
Great.
Been to get my tea.
Anybody else want to read a bit? Or yes, we got Roberta's got her hand up. If I missed anyone, please let me know. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Roberta. Where have you gone? You disappeared. There you are. You moved to a different place on my screen. Yeah. Okay. So,
George holds the box of fireworks in his hands. The usual group of girls trails after him in their bell bottoms and white t-shirts, jiggling as they walk. None of them wear bras. It was 1969, remember? George closes his eyes, sees the fireworks, his fireworks, light up the sky. Like a rainbow of stars, one of the girls had said. He'd had to take her word for it. The last sound he'd heard, an explosion, and the girl's collective gasp. George looks down where his hands should be, closes his eyes and sleeps.
Blimey. Gosh, Roberta, that's a powerful story. Thank you. Yeah, so that's going into the whole danger of everything.
Right, it's actually based on something that happened when I was 15.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think
So
do you think you'll carry on working on that?
Probably, because I've been thinking about George more and more recently and wondering whatever happened to him.
Yes.
It's also the last time I ever saw him. So.
No, well, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Roberta. So there's a couple of things in the chat. Someone's just joined. Yeah, the prompt we just had was writing a story like a Catherine wheel that started off slowly and span in the middle, and then was using sort of firework type action verbs and things. So like splutter, spark, etc. Yeah, and Amy, somebody wants to hear your story. You feel up to reading a bit? St. Catherine must have been a stripper. It is a great title. It is a very intriguing title. But I don't know whether you do want to read. Let's see. I don't think she does. She's not saying. Yeah, it's a great title though. Does anyone else want to read a little bit? Or does anyone want to read their spinning bit they got there? That's Sunny. Sunny, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think this might sound more like a poem.
No worries. You know, we're doing drafts, whatever. Poetic ends, yeah.
Sisterhood of the Flames. They all want to carry a tar barrel. The men want to carry it, carry it. Keep the women out, keep the women out. They ain't got the muscle, nor the shoulders, nor the hide. The women shout, the women roar. The fire's ours as much as yours. We can carry the barrels, we can balance and run with the roar of the fire in our ears, with the crackle of flames in our hair. The women stamp and crackle the floorboards. Their spark zips from one to another. Round it goes, round their toes, leaping, spinning, casting out the opposition, flying through the streets, grabbing the tar barrel, hoisted on high, a flame and running through the town, muscles straining, fire sizzling by their ears.
Wow, that's really interesting. So the tar, what's the tar, Zinni? Was that
the tar barrel.
Yeah.
It's in Ottery St Mary, where they set tar barrels on fire.
Really?
And run through the streets with it. So I just made up a story about the men wanting to keep it to themselves.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I hadn't heard that about the tar barrels. Yeah, Ottery St Mary's in the south of England, isn't it? Devon.
Yeah.
Yeah. How interesting. They still do that tradition then?
They do.
Wow. Excellent. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, anybody else want to read anything? Put your hand up if so. Don't think so. Okay. So I want to move on then to do another exercise, and still keeping on using a firework as a spark off a different style of flash. So I thought it's quite conducive, the firework metaphor, for writing a breathless paragraph story. And I was thinking of the way, again going back to my childhood bonfire, the way that we used to buy little rockets, and they were put in milk bottles, and then with those sort of rockets they were had a great deal of anticipation and then whooshed very fast. So breathless paragraph, which is I know it's a term I've only heard it first myself in one of Kathy Fisher's workshops, but I wanted you to do a whoosh type of story like that, where I've got a few things I want you to put in it, as it's a short go at it. I want you to include a dog, a cow, a hot air balloon, and a young person. Because although the hot air balloon is not obviously a firework, it has that quite loud noise and rush of flame when it goes up or comes down low. So can you do some sort of whoosh, and maybe, you know, it sort of might lend itself to people running, things happening. So something is propelling, making the whoosh of excitement, where you might hold your breath. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Give me how to go. Come it down right here.
I can't.
Why?
I can't.
Why? What you doing?
Hey,
What you doing?
So again, think of all the types of words that you might convey to convey a breathless rush. It may be this story, like a lot of these stories, doesn't have much punctuation in it. It could be one sentence, a one sentence whoosh. Dog, cow, hot air balloon, young person. That's about your halfway point, so just take another breath and continue on, going very fast until you become out of breath. Okay, so why not try a relatively long title for this one, if you can? And whoosh along to the final sentence if you haven't done. Okay, so how did that go? Did you manage to incorporate these different characters and do a breathless paragraph story? Anybody? Put your hands up or have a wave. Put it in the chat. Yes, Sue did. Sarah did. Anybody else? We got anybody here? That was a struggle for Cherise. Yeah, it is quite hard. Anybody else want to say how they did with that one? It's not always easy doing things very fast, is it? But I think trying different characters in a story like that can help. Yeah. Oh, someone's in the wrong workshop. Yeah, you are in the wrong workshop. Yeah, this is me, Jude Higgins, running this one. Yeah. Liz Aiken's got a chaotic draft. I don't know whether you want to talk about it. Liz?
Okay, it is very chaotic.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 fireworks filled the sky. The colors brighter. The brightness, bang, chaos. The young boy let go of his dog. The scarlet lead flapped behind the 4 legs, being propelled forward. Fear driving the dog faster, into the field, barking until the cows stampede. No one saw the rest of the display as the herd trampled through the park. The dog, exhausted, panted and whined. The herd of cattle, now calm, munched the park keeper's prized dahlias. He cried as he saw the mayhem the following day from the hot air balloon drifting over the town. The trip a prize no longer to be treasured.
Oh, very good. I love the way you incorporated those elements in there. Well done.
Yeah, I thought the hot air balloon was a bit contrived.
Well, it was interesting because it was a startle, that, wasn't it? Like the hot air balloon gave the bird's eye view of the whole picture and his dahlias, didn't it? So I think that was good. Did you have a title for it yet? I can't remember. What did you call it?
I did. No, I called it winning a prize. Expectation turns to sorrow.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. A long title. Well done. Yeah. Yes, remember, these are only drafts, so there's got lots of potential in them. Anybody else want to say how they got on with that? At all? Yeah. Anybody? I got Sue and Sarah. They prefer to go, so I'm going to ask anyone else first, but then we can come back to you. Yeah. Okay. Sarah.
Well, really only if nobody else wants to have a go, apart from Sue, who's already done 2. Nobody else? Okay, I'm going to rattle through mine then in suitably breathless fashion, okay?
Got Fiona as well.
It's just a load of rubbish, but that's what a first draft is supposed to be, so it's fine that it's a load of rubbish. I really believe that. Okay,
Yeah,
so here we are.
I always say send you in the critic off to Siberia somewhere. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't let them spoil your fun.
Yeah. There
Okay.
it was in the field, standing alone, huge, billowing, much more powerful than he had ever imagined. 3 men straining to hold it down, 2 others in the basket. Was he really supposed to get in there with his mum? Seemed so. Then they were in it, her sitting, smiling, he kneeling on the seat, looking over the basket's edge when he felt the ground tremble, the horizon twitch, and with a sickening lurch, the world started to fall away, suddenly, shockingly, unreasonably. Somebody should stop it. It must be a mistake. He looked around wildly, but nobody cared. They were all busy, pulling ropes, opening hatches, unpacking picnic baskets, doing ordinary stupid things, while all the time the world was disappearing below them. A tiny cow looking up at them, a dog too small to mention, really yapping at them. Or so he assumed. Its mouth was certainly opening and shutting, but they were far too far away to hear it. It was all wind whooshing and a flame, hissing, and the flapping of great heavy material far too heavy to be up here, material that was surely going to start dragging them down any time now.
That's great. It's lovely. It did have a really lovely rhythm to it with your repetitions and the voice of the boy. That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just going to nip over to Fiona, Sue, because she hasn't read before. And then Cherie's got a question, so I'll come back to that.
Hi, Jude. Nice to see you.
And you? Yeah.
Okay, so I got a little paragraph out of that. I've called it, "We have all the time in the world to talk about our childhood." We were at an altitude of about 300 feet, which was close enough to see so much detail down below as we passed over the green and gold and yellow patchwork of fields. And the pilot had just pulled on the cord that fired up the burners, and the gas billowed in a searing rush, a burning torch inflating the balloon over our heads as we leaned over the edge of the basket and pointed things out to each other, saying, "Look at the cows over in that field, how small they look from here, like the farm animals in that toy farm you had when you were a kid." And the fields were made of deep green felt, and you had to lay them out on top of the deep green carpet in the hall, stitching them together with the tiny plastic fences that came with the set, and dividing up the animals up into their sets, having had to sort them out on the carpet first because you never put them away tidily. And our mother was always complaining about the mess inside the box that contained the farm. And I don't think that she realized that half the fun for you was sorting the little cows and sheep and pigs into their piles. And I was just about to tell you, to finally admit to you, that I was the one who had taken the tiny collie dog from the set and kept it in my pocket all the time you searched for it, rubbing it with my fingers as I pretended to help you search. And I had turned my head toward you to tell you, and I opened my mouth. At the same time, the basket tilted, and there was a ripping, tearing sound from over our heads, and the gas shimmered and sparkled in a haze around us, and then the bang, and then there was nothing but stars.
Wow, that was so lovely. Oh, it's
Thank
very,
you.
really great details in that, and it had quite a emotional feeling to me. I felt quite emotional listening to it. Did you feel that when you were writing it, Fiona?
Yeah, well, when I looked at the prompts, I was like, what am I going to make out of those?
Yeah.
And I just started, I thought, oh, well, let's put them in the balloon and see what happens from there, you know, and that's what happened. So thank you for that prompt, because I would never have got that without it.
No, quite right. Yes. So it's interesting the different places people started, the ones you've heard so far, isn't it? We started. You started with the balloon, did you? No, where did you?
did.
You started with the balloon.
Yeah.
Sarah started with the cow that then was large and then I thought it was interesting. And then what about who else read? Who else read just now? Where did you you started with the boy, didn't you? No, the leash.
Yes.
That was the beginning.
Yeah, there was a bang, and I ended with the balloon.
You ended with the balloon. That's right. So you got.
And I started with the balloon and ended with the bang.
Yeah. So I thought it was quite good using the leash in your story. Just thinking about it, Liz, because then that was leading it, wasn't it? He was leading the whole thing, really. Like you might be pulled along by a dog. I thought that was good structures. So I just had to go to Amy says complete scent is a great place to find breathless paragraphs all in one sentence. So that's a good tip. Thank you. And then the most recent second prize winner of the Bath Flash Fiction Award has got a really great one sentence story, which is definitely worth reading. That's up on the site, the Bath Flash Fiction Award site. I'll put that in. It's just recently won the second prize. Anyone else think of any other places in particular for that? I mean, it's quite a lot around, I think, of one breathless type of stories in different magazines. I can't think of anything more right now. I don't think there's a apart from the one that Amy says. I can't think of anywhere else where they're clustered together like that. So, Sue, did you want to have a bit of a read of yours? Because you did have your hand up. So it's quite interesting to look at the different takes on this.
Yeah, I don't know how I can follow Fiona's because that took my breath away, Fiona. I thought it was absolutely stunning. And it took me right back to my two young brothers when they had sets of farm animals when they were both quite poorly. And Dad and I went into Leicester, to a lovely shop in Leicester, and all Graham wanted was an elephant. We brought the whole, the zoo set and the farm set and everything back to them. Britain's, I think, is the name of the manufacturer of those animals. So your story brought a whole lot of memories back for me. I do
Yeah,
think.
very, very evocative.
Yeah, I thought you said a short title, but I must have misheard you.
Doesn't
But
matter.
my title is called Kidnapped with a question mark.
Okay. So just do a little.
She was your radar normally, with ears up and tail tucked, but then it happened with a crack and a smack of all the sounds you'd ever experienced as the balloon filled and the blue flames roared, and it something floated into the sky as you'd always thought. Oh, it didn't float into the sky as you'd always thought, but bumped and bounced until it was above your head. You sat then and soothed Molly, rubbed her head, cradled her muzzle, whispered into her soft as velvet ears, "It's okay, old girl." But then a throat rumble from her told you weren't alone. A young boy was behind you, startled by the balloon going up with its red and yellow stripes and a large image of a black cow on its side. Sorry about that. "It's okay," you say to him. "Ain't," he cried. "Not okay. My mum was in that basket. She didn't know it was going to go up. There's no one here. Do something, do something, do something." Molly barked. A cell phone on the grass beeped. The young boy picked it up. "It's Mum's," he says. "Now what is she? Well, what? Now what? Has she been kidnapped?"
Very good. So that's actually it sort of reminds me of the situation in, what was it, that book by Ian McEwan, where the hot air balloon suddenly went up and people were hanging off it. And it wasn't quite like that, but it has that sort of feeling like, could this end in a tragedy?
I don't know. I've got no comma, no full stop, no question mark, no quotation marks, nothing.
Well done. Yeah, well done.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm going to move on now. I mentioned Bath Flash Fiction Award second prize winner just then. I was hoping to have this on screen, but I'm not going to try because it sort of went a bit wrong earlier. But I wanted to just read this winning story because of the fact that it contains nearly all the elements and a lot of up and down. So I thought this is a feature of fireworks that maybe you might not agree with this, but often I think we walk along and we don't look up, really. We don't look up at the sky very much as we're walking. We might walk, you may, but I don't think I do. And then we don't really look at the ground either. And this story has quite a lot of up and down, ground and sky, and also inside, outside themes in it, which I thought could all fit maybe a little bit loosely to things about looking at a display. So I'm going to read it. I'll find it in a minute. Here we are. So it's called, this story is quite short. It's called Snow Crow. I hope I can do it justice. And the days were made of auguries, and the cricket calls arrived disembodied from the field, and a dead mole lay on its back by the garage, gathering its thin blanket of ants. And wasps hummed outside the boy's window like primitive wraiths. And one morning he found a dead crow in the woods and carried it back to the house, hiding it at the back of his closet like a reliquary. And sometimes he imagined the creature calling to him in the night, calling to him in his dreams, and the boy would rise, pull the string of the closet light, and open the cardboard box. And there was the crow, its dark wings motionless, its dark and lacquered eyes gazing up at him. And sometimes in the mornings the boy stepped into the backyard and gazed at the sun with its raw sepulchral eye, and at breakfast, now and then, he asked about his father. And his mother would cross her arms over her chest or set his plate so forcefully on the table that the boy would look away. And some afternoons he sat in his closet and imagined the crow lifting itself on the dark oars of its wings, rowing high above the trees. Or the boy imagined a crow call fissure in the air, a crow call that was both corporeal and incorporeal at once. And the smell in the boy's closet was like something secretive congealing on the surface of a pond. And on the evening, when the first light snow of the season came dropping toward the land, the boy carried the crow back into the woods and tossed it as high as he could manage into the air. So I think that's an amazing story that sort of contains so many very strong details. So if we're going to perhaps stretch the firework metaphor a little bit, it does have quite a few startles in it for me. Like, I think it's got a sort of bang in the middle, like a firework. When this thing about the mother putting a plate down forcefully on the table and not saying, we don't know what's happened to the father, but can imagine something pretty bad. And it's also, as I said, it's got the elements in it all apart. It's got it hasn't got fire. So this story's got air, it's got the crow in the air, it's got the earth where the dead mole and the crow were found. It's got the water that is has the smell, but it hasn't got fire. So I wondered if you could write a story that has up and down in it, and in and out, but has all the elements apart from one. But you don't have to miss out fire, you can keep fire in. So, but you're going to leave out one element. So you can follow the themes of a previous story. You might want to follow some more about the one you just wrote, or a previous one that you wrote about the party. See if you can maybe continue with the same characters, or a character in a longer piece you're writing. So I'll write the prompt down as well, so you'll know what I'm after. I just added that you might want to also add repetitions, like in the story by Doug Ramsbeck. What's his name actually? I just read. So just a couple more minutes for this one now. Again, have a look for a title. Okay. So we'll stop there. How's that prompt? Somebody liked that one? Stephanie did. Stephanie Hammer. What did you like about it, Stephanie?
Hi, Jude. I love the apparent simplicity of the directions. It was like in and out and up and down. And it's just great because it gives you so many places to go.
Oh, good.
So
Right.
I loved that. I just went with that and made this whole thing. So it was awesome.
Yeah. Did you want to read any of it or not? You don't know.
Sure. I'll read it. This is called Domestic.
Right.
We can't go outside. It's raining. But we can't stay inside. It's snowing. What about inside? I know, the bathroom. Everything important happens there. We squeeze in. It's a small room. The shower is the whole room. There's a toilet and a sink, of course, but how do I put it? There's no separation. We go in where it's dry, which is ironic. I don't like it here, says my husband. I'm going down the drains to investigate my roots. He climbs into the sink, which is not easy. I help him because I have to, although I don't think he'll find anything. And actually it goes on for a while, so I'm going to stop.
That's great. I love that.
It was really, really fun to do. Thank you so much.
And it's wonderfully surreal. And of course, it says a lot about the relationship. So I love the fact that going in and in and down and down. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for reading. Has anyone else done anything surreal with this that they would like to share? Okay. Are you up for one final little burst of writing? You got enough energy, people? Just thought maybe we started with a sort of memoir piece, so I thought we might end with a sort of memoir piece in which I would also incorporate what sometimes is called word cricket, in which I'm going to lob in a firework type of word every few seconds for you to incorporate. But this is like, I want you have a title for this piece this time, and it's going to be called My Firework Years. Now, I'll just give you an example of this because I wouldn't say I'm a very explosive person, but I did have a time. I have done more of this recently, but I had a more active time protesting back in my early 30s. So I would be going to Greenham Common against American Air Force bases in that time, and I did speeches. I was quite fiery at that time. So those were my I would say those were my firework years. So I could start writing a piece about that sort of protesting. So it wasn't fiery. I wasn't particularly, I don't think I'm particularly fiery in domestic circumstances. I don't explode easily, but I was a bit more out there. So if you might have a period or you might be quite a fiery person, can you just start writing, starting my firework years? It could have been when you were very young, it could have been recently, it could be right now, it could be some other time in the past. So and every now and then I'm gonna lob in a sort of firework, one of the words from the list. Okay, off you go. My firework years. As I said, when I say the word, I want you to incorporate it. Spit.
Mhm.
Plummet. I'll write them down as well. Could somebody who's not muted mute? Don't know who it is. Thanks. Fizzing. Siren. Pyrotechnics. And the last one, explode. So if you can put explode in your last sentence. Then it will end with a bang and not a whimper, as they say.
Can you say the words again?
The words were spit, plummet, fizzing, siren, pyrotechnics, and explode.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if you haven't managed to get them in there and you want to do some revision, you can put them in later. Okay. So we're just coming up to the last 2 minutes of our time. So did you manage to get a little firework years type of tiny flash, anybody? Anybody get that? They might be continuous, of course, your firework years, not in spurts. Has anyone got any questions or comments? Anything they want to say? Some people had to go because of fireworks outside in the UK, but actually I can't hear any here. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you very much for writing away non-stop. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. Jude, you run workshops in the UK that are on Zoom. Would you like to plug them?
Oh, the ones that I run a weekly writing group on Tuesdays, which some people here come to or have come to, and they're 2 hours long, and they have prompts and feedback opportunities. But that's it's GMT time, 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and then I'm also doing workshops currently on the Flash Fiction Festival UK site, along with a number of other people, including John, who's coming in March, which is nice. And the next one's on November the 27th, and there's a lot of there's 4 workshops and talks and things, and it's just £30 for a whole day. So that's 11 o'clock AM GMT to 6:30 PM. Lots and lots of stuff. I'll put that in the chat.
What day of the week is November 27th?
That's the Saturday, the 27th of November, the next one. Kathy Fish is doing a workshop on that one. Part of the work the day.
All right. Well, if you all wanted to make a really big day out of it, you could go to the Flash Fiction Festival, which would lead directly into the last day of Writers Day.
Right. Yeah, you could work. You could non-stop Flash. Wow.
That's right. Yeah, you could do a good 12 hours.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jude.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Next up, we have Stephanie Hammer, and she's going to be followed by Romaine Washington. And then this evening, T. Anders Carson. So thank you all. I'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Bye.
Thank you, Jude. That was amazing.
Thanks, Stephanie.